Hello, hello. Welcome. Welcome to Parent to Parent. We're going to go ahead and get started this evening. We have lots of folks joining us online, so we're going to go ahead and get started. This is being live streamed, and so we just ask, especially if you're sitting back here, the camera is right behind you, so just maybe walk out that way. That would be awesome. Thank you. My name is Doris Herrero, and I am the Children's Ministry Director here at this campus. And it is truly an honor to be able to be with you guys tonight. This event was birthed out of this desire to come together as a community and say, hey, like, this parenting journey, it's kind of hard. And we can do this in community because we're not meant to do this alone. And so parenting is one of those things that we thought, you know what, let's get our church community together. And so that's where Parent to Parent was birthed. If you're joining us online, we're really excited that you chose to spend your Tuesday evening with us as well. I'm going to go ahead and pray for us and then kind of explain how the evening will go. So if you'll just join me in praying. Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, we just thank you for this day. We thank you for the opportunity to gather here tonight as parents, as caregivers, to just talk the hard, the good, the challenging, the things that we celebrate, the things that we need help with, Lord. And I thank you for this incredible panel and for their families and the wisdom that you have given them throughout these years. And I just pray that all of us will walk away today feeling challenged to try something new in our families. And I thank you for this evening. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Okay, so in just a second, Daisha will be leading our panel through a discussion. And then after the panel discussion, there will be some time for some Q&A where you guys can text in your questions and ask questions of the panel or to Daisha up there. And then at the very end of the evening, we'll have some time for those of you who are here in person for some table discussion. And you guys can kind of join up in different tables as well and just kind of talk amongst yourself. And we've got some table leaders and some questions on the table for you guys to go through. So that's how the evening will go tonight. But first, I want to introduce you to our awesome panel. I'm going to move over here so everyone can see these beautiful faces. The first family is the Margio family right here in the middle. Michael and Heather have been married for 12 years, and they are both Florida natives, not something that you hear all the time. And they met while attending a college ministry at UCF. They have 2 children, 6 and 3, right, are their ages. And Michael is the video producer here at Summit, so you may have seen him around. He's responsible for the things that you see online, so he's a pretty cool dude. And Heather's a stay-at-home mom, and she's also a homeschool teacher. And the Margio family loves to be outside. They enjoy pizza and movie nights and learning together. And they've called Summit their church home since 2017. Then we have the Ronquillos at the very end over there. Earl and Karen met during early UCF years. Go Knights. And they've been married since 2007. Their son's Grayson. He's 9. He's the social one of the bunch. And then Maxwell is 3. He's the jokester, apparently. Karen is a middle school English teacher for OCPS, and Earl is an RN for Advent Health, and he manages the Physician Informatics Education Department. Wow. Both learned to serve God with their families since birth and currently are serving on a care community team. The Ronquillo family gets energized being around other people, their family gatherings, play dates, bike rides, board games, and they like to meet new people and try new things, especially food. So you guys, maybe you want to be friends with the Ronquillos. And our last panelists are the Vazquez family, Monica and Rene, who I've had the pleasure of knowing for quite some time. They've been married for 14 years, and they have 4 boys, Elias, Lucas, Amos, and Matthias. So a house full of boys. And they have lived in Orlando most of their lives and have been at Summit for 18 years. That's a lot. And Renee works for Lyft Orlando downtown, and Monica is a stay-at-home mom to the boys. And they like to be outside and go bike riding and walking, and they like to wrestle with the boys. And Daisha, my dear friend Daisha. Daisha is on staff at Waterford in base camp as well. And Daisha and Adam have been married for 12 years. Adam is not here because he's home with the little ones. But they have 3 children and 1 on the way. Adam is a PE teacher with Seminole County Public Schools, and Daisha mostly stays at home with her kiddos and then works part-time for us, and they love a lot of outdoors things. All right, I've introduced you to these awesome folks, and now I'm going to pass the mic on to Daisha.
Thank you. Thanks, Doris. All right, like Doris said, we're so excited that you guys are here tonight because we got to meet with this panel 2 weeks ago, and it was so life-giving and so fantastic to hear what they had to share. And so we're excited to get to share that with all of you now tonight. So we do have several questions to go through tonight, so we'll do that first, and that'll be our panel discussion time. And then after that, there'll be time for you to text in questions for Q&A that we'll just ask them on the fly, see how they do, see what they remember from these early years of parenting. It'll be great. And then we'll have table discussion afterward at each of your tables, like Dora said. So we will dive right in and ask our first question, which is, what are some of the family values you communicated to your kids in this early stage of parenting? And Vazquez family, you guys are up first.
Thank you. I think reminding the boys that we're all a part of a team. The more kids we've had, the stronger our team has had to be. But even from the early years, when they're 1 and 2 and they want to help with laundry, help put stuff in the dryer or take their plates to the kitchen, just simple things to help us all foster that team atmosphere. And that also goes for being kind to one another and functioning as a team in that way, reminding them to be kind to each other, or to rephrase things in a kind way, helping them kind of navigate those conversations, or if they say something unkind, how can we say that differently, to help them remember. And the other thing that we had talked about was reminding the boys or teaching them that their words are important. And no means no, stop means stop. So even if we're wrestling with the kids or tickling them or whatever, and they say, no, okay, that means no. So we just stop and value that and, teach them that their words are important and their boundaries are important. And even if we know, in 2 seconds, they want us to tickle them again, so let's do it again. Just those simple things, I think.
Yeah, I love that. And yeah, that's a big thing for us too, the idea that they're created by God, they're people, so they deserve respect too, just the same as us. I love that. Thank you. All right, Margios and then Ronquillos.
I think one of the big ones is that they're best friends. We just always tell them, you guys are best friends. It's worth, repair the relationship. We repair it with them, they repair it with each other. And just not leaving things undone. Definitely just pushing that best friends forever. That's who you've got forever. And then I think that's some of the main things.
Yeah, that's right.
Do some of those too.
Built-in best friends.
Built-in best friends forever.
I like it.
Mm-hmm.
Ronquillos, how about you?
Hi, everybody. Over the years, we have relied on some pretty great wisdom, and Daniel Tiger has been a big part of our lives.
Yes.
Amen. Our favorites?
Yeah, one of the favorites is when you're feeling mad and you want to roar, take a deep breath and count to 4. Thank you.
Thank
There
you.
go. Yeah. So, what was the other one? Oh, the other one is use your words. Use your words.
No more tantrums and all that. Just use your words. Use your words.
Say how you feel. Yeah. What was the last one?
It's okay.
Oh, you could sing this one, yeah.
It's okay to feel mad sometimes. That was way too low.
Little by little,
You'll feel better again.
So my thing is I try to ruin it like dads do, and I'll say it wrong, but there's a purpose to that so that my child corrects me and it embeds in his head that this is what it means. So that's a little tip for the dads. It's okay to mess up the song. They'll correct you. That's it.
I love that. And it helps them learn your mantras too, which is great through song. All right, our next question is, since we know what some of your family values are, how did you go about creating your own sense of family identity? So in terms of managing expectations and boundaries with extended family and building new traditions with your personal family unit as it is now. And Margios, can you answer this one first, please?
Sure. Yeah. I think for Heather and I, we just try to be intentional about it. I think that's the big thing, just to communicate. And I feel like it was even from like early on, like yearly or maybe sometimes every 6 months, like we're just like going back to like, what do we want our family to look like? Like, who are we helping these little people be? What kind of humans are they going to be? And I think a lot of times we come up with a big plan and we probably do like 2 of the things and we're like, maybe we need to alter things a little bit. But I think it's kind of a fluid sort of vision, and there's some important parts that we've made. And even like one big tradition, for example, would be like we do a family vacation that's just our nuclear family. That's it. Like we want to just, create memories and have little inside jokes that we discover along the way about, our little ones and stuff. So is that it? Anything else? Okay.
That's great. And it's wonderful you can start that so young with them and it be part of your family from the very beginning, even when they're infants and toddlers. I love that. All right. How about Earl and Karen?
So for us, it's a little different. We are from different cultures, so there's a little bit of a different type of upbringing for both of us. Also, we're both the oldest in our family, so that comes with a certain set of responsibilities on both ends, so that kind of changes the dynamics too. There's expectations on us all the time. Also, with the cultural difference, I'm Filipino, and it's largely a matriarchy, so that's how I grew up seeing how things were. And on her side, it's patriarchy, being Vietnamese, so that's how she saw it growing up. So it does differ in what we saw growing up as far as in the home. So we really tried to keep the cultural things that made sense and help the family, and remove all those that really didn't mean much to us, especially since we're born here. It was a little bit harder for them to raise us exactly how they wanted to, even though they tried. Like, I tried to be Filipino. I didn't really work out very well, but so, what else?
A big part in how we're doing life with our kids is being more flexible. Like Earl explained about how we were raised, there were in my family, there were a lot of rules, lots of rules. We were very formal in a lot of things that we did, the way we dress, the way we eat or greet or talk. But that also created a lot of anxiety and a lot of hiding, a lot of just not being able to express oneself. And I don't want to see that in my kids. I want them to be able to be open and being able to say, hey, I'm not feeling this, or I don't like this, or I don't want to do this today. So flexibility is huge with Earl and I and our boys, and it's okay. If bedtime was a certain time and we pass it, it's okay. The world's not going to end, and it's okay. If we didn't eat the right time or at the right table or at proper setting, it's okay. And that's huge for myself personally, because that's me trying to break through how I was raised too. But we, as where we are right now, going with the flow, be flexible, it's okay, God guides, and it's all good in that manner.
Yeah, my family was kind of the opposite of that. It was every person for themselves. My mom worked nights and my dad worked days, so there was really nobody awake at the time at the house, but it did, we did have a lot of rules in the house, so when they were up, those were enforced. So I have a lot of flexibility. So, that's another one of those things where we had to learn somewhere in the middle. I had to tighten it up, and she had to let it loose a little bit. So, but for us, we have our mantra in our household is be be truthful and be honest. Say what you mean and do what you say you'll do. And that way, you're always at least headed in the right direction. And we don't want our kids to have that fear of if they tell the truth, you know, there are consequences, but we don't want them to be fearful of not saying that. So that's really a big thing in our family. Just be honest. There are consequences, but it's okay. I mean, you know.
I love that. Thank you guys for sharing. All right, Rene and Monica.
Family traditions. Family
Mhm.
traditions.
Well, yes, and establishing your own identity as a family unit and managing the expectations of extended family around that. Just a simple softball question for everyone.
Holy cow. Managing the expectations of our family. So we also come from 2 different cultures, and that's been a lot of the growth in our family has been trying to figure out how to blend the two into one cohesive thing that makes sense for the kids and doesn't completely confuse them. So I think one way that this has been borne out is in a simple family greeting. So I'm Latino, and it's a very loud environment. Usually I go to my parents' house, my siblings' houses, and the kids are gonna be bombarded with all these relatives hugging and kissing and wanting to be all over them. And we just decided that as a team, like Monica was mentioning, we were gonna allow our kids to choose the way that they greet. And you know, you gotta greet, you gotta do something, but you don't have to do it exactly the same way everybody else does. But that was a big deal for my family because they're like, why don't your kids greet us? What's wrong with your kids? Yeah. I was like, well, no, this is what we're doing. So one of the ways that we've found to work through that kind of initial conflict is we coach the kids. You have to greet, choose, pound, hug, whatever, choose one. And then I would coach in real time my family and be like, hey, he gets to choose. These are the choices. This is what's going to happen now. And as it's happening, allow them to choose to be a part of the greeting. And that's helped real time coaching. And that way we don't do like family meetings where I'm like, Mom, you know, this is the rule for my family. We're not that intense, but it just seems to flow more easily as we do it on my side of the family, coaching in real time. And she handles all the talking to her side of the family because it's the opposite in a lot of ways. It's much more reserved. And I can be more open with my family. So, but we've established that rule. That's kind of how we roll. And now I've taught everybody else in the family how to relate to our kids. And it works. It took a little while. I would say the one thing that was interesting when we were talking was that we had this aha that my parents, her parents, they don't actually know how to be grandparents. They don't. That's not. It doesn't automatically happen when a new baby comes into the world. You know, that was our expectation. Oh, they're going to be amazing grandparents. Like it happens, right? No, they have no clue. You don't know what you're doing. They don't know what they're doing. So you might as well coach them in how to be a grandparent for your kids and your family.
That's such a gift to the whole family, extended and your nuclear family. I love it. All right, one last question about families of origin, and everyone here that's interested in early years has at least recently welcomed children into their family. So what things from your families of origin did you want to keep around, and have you tried to keep as part of your family culture and your family identity? And Ronquillos, can you answer this first, please?
Oh, we're first. Okay. So, traditions, right? For us, our traditions are largely around food and gatherings. So that's really been a big thing for us. For our kids, we teach them what the names of the foods are and the dishes, how to say them right, and how to ask for them. So that's one thing. Also, we when we have parties or get-togethers, we usually make a lot more than we need, because at the end of the day or the party or whatever it is, we we divvy it up and then send it off with other people. So what else with the traditions?
Hovering around food. I feel like that's our lives right there. Yeah.
Yeah,
We were
hang out
raised
with
on
us,
the
eat
food. When we talked about greetings, Rene, about greetings, we're like that too for both families, making sure that the kids greet the grandparents properly, but it's also teaching them to bring something. We bring a dish or something to somewhere every time. So that's something we keep, and that's pretty much it, that the proper greeting and knowing how to say hi. But they don't do it as proper as they should. And, we initially got the same thing from the grandparents. What's wrong with them? You know,
Why aren't they greeting us the
why
way
aren't-
we want it?
Yeah. But it's the same thing. Now it's just, these are my grandkids. We love them, and this is how they're doing it, and there's no judgment in that. So we meet in the middle. We meet in the middle, teach the grandparents how to be grandparents, and the kiddos how to love on the older generation that as well.
Thank you. All right, and now we're going to skip to our next question, and it is also for the Ronquillos to start. What is something that you worried about when you were new parents of kids first in this stage, that now, having been out of that very early stage, at least with your oldest son, that you realize, maybe we didn't really need to be as concerned about that?
Yeah, so our oldest son, he was preemie, 6 weeks. If I say something wrong, correct me. It's been a while. So 6 weeks, he was preemie. Yeah, he's 9 now. Okay, do the math. We were worried, since he was a preemie, that he was incapable of doing anything on his own, that he wouldn't hit his milestones, things like that. And it really carried on. That's how we taught our grandparents. To be honest, when he first came home, the next day after being born, we didn't really know what we were doing. And he was losing weight, so I had to feed him every hour on the hour, which was really tough, around the clock. But then once he broke out of that and started gaining weight and getting back on track, we just continued the force feeding and doing everything for him, because we didn't think he could do anything on his own. But we found that actually that really worked against his benefit, because it created more bad habits than really helping him out. It didn't help him in any of the milestones. He met them, even though we were doing everything for him. So what we found out with the bad habits, for example, with the feeding, he doesn't eat all his food, and he sits there and he was being fed by my parents until he was 4 or 5. They were still spoon feeding him, so I was like, "Mom, you gotta stop that." So it was one of those things that looking back, we should have let him do more on his own. And with our younger son, we learned our lesson from the older one around age 3, 4. So with him, we let him do a lot on his own. If he really needs the help, we let him struggle, and then we help him out. But we've learned that he's a lot more independent, and he's reaching the milestones appropriately, and there's nothing that we had to do to help him. Of course, if your child has some ailments, then yes, you need to help them. But if they're on track, I mean, really, that was one of the big things that seeing now, I should let them just do it.
As new parents, it's a struggle. We never know what we're doing at first, right? Mm-hmm. So we just kind of figure it out as we go. But then we were the first to have kids on both sides of the family. So the grandparents are now hovering on us, thinking we're not good parents. We should be doing these things. Force feed him, and forget it. Let me get the kid. Let me do it myself, And we just kind of backed off, thinking we didn't know what we were doing. And then the story with that after. But it's funny because they'll do it. They naturally will just do it. So the example that we use with our son now, Maxwell's our second. He's 3, and we put an apple in front of him. Go at it. And he goes at it. And he'll gnaw through and figure it out and bite and hit a seed and he'll go, I don't eat that. He'll figure it out as we go. But if we did that with Grayson, the grandparents, bad parents, you need to cut it for them, peel it. It needs to be on the plate. And
He won't even eat it. He'll just look at it, and then he'll just go on, unless you cut it and peel it, and then. Then he'll take it and eat it. But
All food examples here.
I was just gonna
It's a
say, it's
theme.
a perfect example for your family. You say you love food. That's so good. And Margio's, you have a similar story with your first and second child as well, how we learn from experience with the first and then improve or try something different with the second. Can you guys share about that?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, for our first Mia, she's 6 years old now. But we were very rigid with routines and feeding and all these sort of things. And I just remember, our parents would come over to watch them. Like my parents would come over and we'd have the 2-page manual. Like, this is when she'll eat. This is when she poops. This is when you do all the things. You follow this step-by-step operation, she will do fine. And they probably didn't follow it, but that's fine. She was still alive when we got back. And then we got to Miles, and we just realized, why are we doing all this stuff so rigidly? And he's fine, like we were really cautious about things, don't go up on that or don't climb on this with Mia. And then Miles comes around and we're like, don't even say anything and just see what happens. And he gets bruises. And he's not, he's still just as cautious as the one that we were really careful about. So, yeah, who knows if it works, but that's what we did.
I love that. She was still alive when we got back. It's like perfect for the early years of parenting. All right. Thank you all for sharing about that. And now we're going to move to a question that if you have kids that are on the cusp of elementary school or heading to preschool is very important. I know it was a bit of a struggle for our family as we went through it, but how did you navigate choosing a VPK or a preschool and then a kindergarten for your kids? And Vazquez family, can you guys answer first?
Yeah, we did the free VPK when our oldest was 4. And we did it at a private church school. I had toured, I think, 4 schools. And I took our oldest with me, the one who was going into school. And we kind of just felt it out as we went throughout the tour. And I talked to him afterwards, did you like the paintings on the wall? What did you think of the teacher? What did you think of the classroom? And kind of went on his little 4-year-old gut instinct and mine. And we landed on the same page and ended up liking the same little VPK school. And for kindergarten, we just went to the school we were zoned for, the public school, which was great and worked out well.
Perfect.
Yeah, easy.
Thank you.
I didn't know that story before I heard it when we talked. So
We're all learning something
it's
new.
really cool. Yeah, she's pretty good at this. And I wasn't along for those visits, but the 2 things that came to mind for me that were interesting and special, I think, is like the efficacy that gave our son to be able to have a choice in the matter. That's, I think, is significant, and something Monica intuitively did. And just like making and seeing that we could align on something as an adult and as a child, and that we could work as a team again, and we wouldn't have to, since someone trumps the other. I thought that was a really special. I've actually been thinking a lot about that since we talked.
I will say that I was way stressed out about it. Like, you're so protective of your firstborn, of all of them, but your firstborn going to school, you're leaving them for the first time. And I was super stressed. And so I remember one of the schools, it was a church, with a church. And it was not a denomination that I was familiar with. And I didn't know what they believed and whatever. So I remember calling the director, like, hey, what are you teaching the kids? And she basically told me, like, we're not having deep theological conversations with the 4-year-olds. And so I was like, oh, okay.
Right.
So I was like, okay, relax, Monica. And that's the school we ended up at, and it was fantastic. So
That's so great.
yeah, it's good.
We had a similar experience where we were both very anxious over the entire process until we started it, and it just sort of was a put one step take one step at a time and put one foot in front of the other. And then when we did, things just fell into place for the VPK that we chose. And then our daughter she's gone to 2 different elementary schools. She's going into 2nd grade now, our oldest. And it was helpful to remember, and someone had said this to me at the time, that nothing you choose has to be forever. It's not a end all be all, and you make your decision and wow, that's it. They're going to be at this school until they're done, and you don't have a choice in the matter. It doesn't work like that. You get to choose, which was really freeing to keep in mind. All right, so we're going to move on to our next question, which is another really fun and easy one about balancing marriage and parenting and work during this early stage in your kids' lives, and what that looked like for you each, maintaining your marriage relationship and your own personal self-care and spiritual relationship with the Lord. So, Ronquillos, can you share first, please?
Okay, so for us, a big thing that we learned over the years is priorities. To manage your priorities. For our family, our priority is God, then the marriage, then our kids, and then everybody else. Because if we don't set our priorities correct, then everything's always out of the whack. And what I've learned over the years is a lot of people make their children their gods, and that really messes up things because you can't be following your kid for everything. I mean, you have to look to somewhere for to be better spiritually and everything. You need that top example. So also, if we're not on the same page together, then how are we going to help our children? So really, that's why we're the second tier. So God, then there's us, and then your children, because those are the closest units. And after that, everybody else comes into play. So those were our priorities. Another thing is to learn balance, we took up ballroom dancing, and that really helped us with the lead and follow thing because
His idea, ladies.
it was my idea. Yeah, so it was one of those places that we were kind of struggling, the leading and following, because we're both firstborn. So we're like, I'm a leader. So we had to learn how to figure out those areas where we can, give some space. You could take this, I could take this. So we kind of learned some balance in that respect. So with that balance, it also helps our children when they see us. We're on the same page. So one thing is like even if we think the other person's wrong, we won't say that in front of the children. We'll let them do whatever, and then we'll talk afterwards. I'm like, hey, that wasn't right, and we can always come back to the kids after. But we had to have a united front because if we look divided, then the kids can't trust us. So really, that was a big thing for us. Like we're on the same page, even if I don't think it's completely right, or she doesn't think I'm completely right. We don't do that in front of the children. We wait until after, and then we'll discuss there. So, and the last thing for me is like the big thing is that we need to lead by examples. When I say we, I mean us. We need to lead by example because your actions really speak louder than words. Kids are watching constantly. Even the little one, I can see that he's picking up our mannerisms and things just by being around us. So we have to be really careful of what we do. But that also helps because if you are very mindful of what you do, they pick it up and it becomes their habit, and it could be good habits. So just mind what you do around them. And I know you have stuff to say. Yeah.
You know how you parent based on how you've been parented. Did I say that right? Like the way your parents parent you? Yeah. I'm trying to use verbs and nouns together here.
Good.
English teacher on summer. I only saw my parents work. Like that was it. They worked for years, saved up money, put the kids through school, and that was it. I didn't have a visual of what balance would be like you said, God and the marriage and kids, right? I didn't say that. It was just kids, and mom and kids and making sure they're alive, and put them through school and get some degree or work or something. And so it was harder for me, even as an adult, the self-care part, and we're talking about balance here. It's like me learning self-care and us learning self-care and being able to, just as a whole, and then as a couple, so that we can be 100% filled. I think the idea is that we always run so much in the kids' activities and what they're doing, and at the end of the day, I'm depleted. And it's so unfair. It's unfair for my husband. It's unfair for myself. And so the balance here for us, and it's still a challenge for us today. Like, we don't have it all down, but the idea is there, and we're working on it. But just to make sure our tanks are full. The idea I always see in my head is the airplane with the mask dropping, right? We have to put ours on first, fill it up, or 100%. Then we're able to help everybody else. So that's where we see our balance in our family.
Thank you for sharing that. And we'll jump to the Margios, because Michael, you made a decision when your kids were young to switch, to transition jobs for work as well for similar reasons. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it just reminded me, just like Karen had just spoke about, like she saw her family just working, you know, and not necessarily being there and present. And I think that's when it came to, so I work at Summit as the video producer here. And before I came to Summit as a working here, I was a video producer at a local, you know, commercial video production company. And yeah, it took a lot of my time, and it didn't have the same flexibility, even though I do work a lot here. But I never had the option to work from home. You know, that was one big perk about coming here. And I knew that, you know, while I might take a little pay cut, like just being able to be present with my kids and not come home with tons of stress about every project that's got to be completed, you know, on this deadline, because we've got corporate clients and they need their stuff. That just meant a lot, you know, to be able to come home and just be with my kids, be with my wife, and just be present. I think that's, I don't know, it's just such a neat thing to be able to do with your kids when they're little. It's just be present with them and hear all the little funny things they do or say, or, you know, I love copying my son because he does not say anything correct. And I just love that, you know, that I get that opportunity. So
That's so great. Thank you for sharing it. All right, we are going to end our panel discussion time, and I'll give quick instructions about what the Q&A will look like. There is a phone number that's going to magically appear on the screen. Look at that. And so you can text any questions you have to that number right now. And if you are viewing online on YouTube, you can put it in the comments and we'll monitor those as well and get to as many as we can. And while you're texting those in, I want to ask one more question to the Vazquez family about the best piece of advice that you ever received. So please text in your questions now while they're answering this one. Haha. I thought you were done.
Me.
Caught me off guard. Okay. I don't remember what I said. Oh, yeah. Okay. So kids at this age, they have so many big emotions in their little bodies, and they cannot regulate it by themselves. So, you know, they're losing their mind. You're losing your mind. You know, everything's crazy. Our job is to help them to calm down, to be able to think. They're going to have temper tantrums. And so we have tried to help the boys find words for those big emotions. You know, I see you're feeling sad, or, you know, are you angry right now? And yes, I'm angry. But helping them find words for that, and sometimes just diffusing the anger or whatever they're feeling, you know, tickle them, or so you're both laughing and you both cool off if you're both upset. And then the other piece of advice I got was just hug the kids. You know, they're feeling so upset, they're crying. Hug them until they let go, because you don't know how long they need that hug till their little tank is full. So that's something I do with the boys often, even the older ones. I just stay there till they're ready and they're done.
That's great. I do a weird version of that where I just like put my hand on their head and just wait for it to stop. It works too. Yeah. It's just some kind of contact. The hug is better, of course. The one that I had that came to mind was some parenting advice that my buddies and I give each other, basically, and it's simple. It's just take one step further than what you got growing up. Do that much today. Make it easy, make it simple. Read one book. Do one thing to make their parenting experience better than the one that you had, and we can all do that at some level, and that's a nice way to diffuse the anxiety and to actually be an adult and move into your fatherhood or motherhood in a way that's productive.
Thank you for that. That's so freeing to me to hear that you don't have to do all of the things perfectly, but that you can take a step forward and have a progression with each generation and even each situation with your kids, and just try one new thing to improve on parenting. That's freeing for me to hear. Thank you. All right, we have some Q&A questions come through. Thank you, Doris. And the first one, we're going to start with a real doozy. Everyone, get ready. What is a mistake you've made parenting that has been difficult to correct? And anyone who would like to take this may.
Do it.
Go for it. It's all you,
Okay.
Heather.
I think because with your first, you're trying to do everything right. And so I just put so much pressure on myself and her, and because our first was a girl. And I think she's so, like, sometimes I wonder, like, is this just who she is, or did I make her like this? Which the question we all are going to ask ourselves, right? But she's so cautious and, like, can get really anxious about things that I'm like, I wish I hadn't, like, made things so rigid, so black and white. Like, yes, bedtime is important, and yes, these rules are important, but, like, she takes everything, like, but you said to wash it for this long, and I'm gonna wash it this long, or I'm gonna, I can never do that, and I'll stop my brother from doing that because his mom said it one time, and, like, so she's, like, just so black and white. And so I think that sometimes I wish that I had explained to her more, like, just more chill. And I think today I was explaining to a friend, I was like, I can't say, like, don't go near the water, alligators will eat you. I'm like, just step away from the water. Like, because if I give her all the things that could possibly happen, she's gone, she's out of here, she will be terrified for forever. Yeah. So, like, I think that you just learn, like, as your kids get older and who they are. But in the beginning, I wish I had been a little looser.
Yeah. And the good news is, right, that we thankfully have more time to correct that with
it's
each.
not done.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Heather, for sharing. Okay. Here's another one. We'll try to get through as many of these as we can. How do you deal with parents, or did you deal with parents during this stage, other parents who want to parent your child? And I'm assuming this means in front of you, because if I'm not there, I'm like, go ahead, make sure it happens how it should. But how, let's specify, if you're there too and another parent wants to step in, what would that look like for you in this stage?
The one that comes
Rene.
to mind for me was related to a previous example of my family with the greeting. So that's partly, I have two older sisters and my mom and my dad. So I'm the baby. Everybody is older than me, and everybody wants to tell me how to treat how to be a parent. And so in those original kind of many conflicts of greeting, they were actually trying to help me by telling me how this kid should behave. And I was trying to refute that lovingly. So those experiences were very much a clashing of parenting styles in the moment. No, you gotta tell him to do this. And I'm like, no, I just can't do that right now. They didn't all go perfectly well. Sometimes my family walked away from those situations feeling offended, like either by me or by my kid. So maybe I could have done a better job of that. But over time, that it became commonplace. It became the norm of how we relate with this family unit within our broader family. But it did take time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and sometimes just accepting that we will have to make apologies as parents to other people if we overstep, that that's not the end all, the world's not going to end if we have to apologize, but to stand your ground in that is important too. Yeah. All right, how do you handle situations where you are angry with your children? What does that look like for you during this, when they were these ages, 0 to 5 range?
So with anger, we try to remove ourselves from the emotion. Like you feel it, you're angry, but every emotion has a reason behind it. So find out why we're angry, and that's what we try to teach our children. Like there's a reason for every emotion. Emotions are a gift. So figure out what it is that it's telling you, but that shouldn't run you. You should be in control of your emotions, not your emotions controlling you. So for us for me personally, because guys have a little bit less of those emotions, like we feel them hard and there's less of them. So when it's anger for me, I might have to take a breath and step away. So that it's just take a deep breath, count to 4,
Right.
Daniel Tiger, yeah. So yeah, so it's really that thing. So what works for the child also can work for you.
Mm-hmm.
So really, it's take the emotion out of it, and minimize it, so you can do what you need to do.
Yeah, so acknowledge it.
Mm-hmm. Feel it,
And then go from there.
and put it in the back and deal with it. Come back and feel it again. So.
I like it. Thank you. All right. I have a hypothetical situation to go with this question. Hypothetical. How do you deal with sibling fighting? So, for instance, say the younger sibling knocks over a block tower that the older sibling, in some family somewhere that happened today, gets really upset about. What would you do when they go at one another? And what does that look like in your homes when your kids were these ages?
One of the things that we've recently come to, just because they are like each other's best friends, and they, get along great, but they also fight great. And so I recently decided, I was like, you know what? Like, they're prioritizing their stuff over each other. I was like, both of you over here, and like I'm cooking in the kitchen or something. So they sit on the step like near me, but just each other, no toys or anything. And I was like, you have to stay there, and just until they enjoy being with each other. And it ends with them laughing and talking and like whatever, and they forget they were mad at each other. And then I normally like repair at the end, like let's talk it out. But sitting them together, I did this, and I was like, why have I never done this before? This is a beautiful thing to see, because the way they just end up just loving each other so well at the end of it. So just that, and then making sure they repair and apologize. So.
Similarly, I once saw a mom do knee to knee, so she would have the kids both sit crisscross, and then they had to stare at one another. I've also heard that in marriage, that if your knees are touching, that's how you should argue, because you have to look the person in the eye, and you're less likely to say the things in anger that way too. So it works for kids in relationship for your family. That's great. All right, I love this next question, and I can't wait to hear your responses. How does it look in your families to practically put God first? Where has it worked best, and where has it maybe not worked super well? Karen.
Grayson, our 9-year-old, prayed for a brother. He prayed for a brother, and even when I was pregnant, we didn't know what it was. It was my brother, and he named him and everything. So we used that against him. And he's like, you prayed for this brother. It works here and there. But, back to the best friend thing. They are best friends. They know they're best friends. They fight just as hard. But, we talk about God making this family and designing how we are and how far they are apart. They're 6 years apart. And for my oldest and my youngest, they're just so far apart. You didn't think they would want to play, but they do. And they love each other in that manner. So by using God in that manner, by saying that God designed this, God designed us, and this is our family unit, and we will worship him.
Love that. Thank you. Would anyone else like to answer that one? Any practical ways at home?
I know one for us is that we practice Sabbath weekly. So that was just one way for our family just to just prioritize that time where we just slow down everything. Our daughter loves it. She doesn't have to make her bed. She doesn't have to comb her hair or brush her hair or whatever. She just loves that kind of stuff. She's really into resting. And but it is it's just an opportunity for us to just slow down, be with the kids. We play with them more. We'll read the Bible together. Just take it slow. It's really practical. Just that God designed this from the very beginning for us, that we can rest and just rest in who he is. So, yeah.
That's great. Is that on the same day every week?
Generally, yeah. We try to always do it on Saturdays if we can, unless something happens. But, yeah.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
Rene, did you have something? You picked up the mic and I wasn't sure.
Those were great. Those were great. I don't know. One of the things that comes to mind is that when having kids has forced us to think about these theological, this doctrine, this theology that we believe, in frame it in a way that a child could understand it, and it's kind of transcends a thought exercise. And when you're actually in it and you're trying to answer the question is what does my body look like in heaven? You get those little questions, or it forces you to dig deeper for these answers. And I think that's been a joy and a learning opportunity for us in development of my own faith, and is it should be simple enough for a child to understand. And in fact, that's what we're told. The kingdom belongs to these, such as these. So I don't know. I found that to be a challenge, but also really rewarding. It's not a dumbing down. It's a finding of truth in kind of a different way.
I love that. Thank you. I had someone once share, a mom she has older kids who are almost all grown-ups now, say that she used to have her quiet time in the morning before her kids got up. And so she wanted that alone time and time with her precious caffeine and her precious word of the Lord and kept that to herself. And then one of her teenagers at the time had said something about, to their student leader, well, my mom doesn't read the Bible. She's like, what? I read every day. But they never saw it. And so what she started doing for her younger children was choosing, not every day, but when she could, choose a time of day that they would see her opening up her scriptures, and what an impact that would make in such a different way, that not only was she now filled just like she was if she had done it alone in the morning by herself, but that her kids also got to experience that with her. And that stuck with me. And I love it because I don't always do it either. I like the alone time as well. But to invite them into that is also really special. Okay, here's a question from online. How do you handle disobedience for a strong-willed 4-year-old child? And what did that look like for you when your kids were that age?
We have a couple strong-willed kids. It's been so different with each kid, though. Once we think we have it figured out, we know how to parent, and we have a new kid, and it's totally different experience. And what we did with the others doesn't work with this one. We do quiet time. We've tried to give the kids tools to self-regulate. to kind of, I'm right here. When you calm down, feel free to come over and, give me a hug or whatever you need. But trying to teach them um, to kind of, I don't know, it goes back to helping them navigate those emotions. Give them, one kid, I don't know, he colors to calm down. The other one does Legos.
About the van would probably be good. The one that likes to color, he's we got our van broken into, and he was nervous about going to new places because he thought the van was going to get broken into again. And Monica had this brilliant idea. It's like, let him color. That's his happy place. And
Yeah, we were homeschooling at the time, and the van got broken into at one of the parks that we had gone to meet up with a homeschool group. And so from then on, he didn't want to go to any more parks. He didn't want to go anywhere new. He was like terrified. It was like PTSD, like really, really terrified. And so I thought, okay, well, I bought him a notebook and I packed his little crayons and he had his little bag. And so we managed our way through those new trips, new park experiences through him just coloring. You don't have to talk to anybody. You don't have to, why don't you draw a picture of what you saw and then we can show Daddy when he got home? Because that was another fear, like Daddy's not with us and you wanted Daddy there. So I'm like, okay, let's draw some pictures so Daddy can see what you saw, even though he's not here. So that kind of,
instead of raging or crying
Yeah.
or screaming or like, yeah, that was brilliant.
Yeah, finding a way to remain calm as the adult too and make an impact still was him. I love that. All right, and this one I'm thinking is for the Margios. Mainly because I know Mia and because of what you guys have shared tonight. So sometimes consequences end up feeling like punishment for a 5-year-old. So how did you balance, or how do you balance helping them learn to do the right thing for the sake of doing the right thing versus out of fear of punishment or retribution, and getting to the heart of that instead of just wanting to do it for good behavior or a check mark in the box?
I'm gonna pass this one off.
I mean, I think it's still such a challenge still. Like I was literally thinking, I was like reading back through mom notes I've taken from different things, and it was like talking about dealing with the heart of it. And she wants to do everything right so much that but it's sneaky is just as bad as the other way, or and so just talking about the heart of it and just our motivations and not adding shame in there, because I think she can be very sensitive to that as well, but just and I think that I can easily go to that because I got more of that growing up, so shame is an easy thing to do as a parent, but just trying to navigate, like, it doesn't change how I feel about you. There's still consequences. I love you no matter what, or things we always try to say.
It's kind of like, just because you're getting a consequence for your actions, it doesn't make you a bad person. It's kind of like that sort of principle that, like, we love you no matter what. This doesn't make you bad. Like, anything and everything you could do will not change the way that we love you and care for you, and we're here for you, right beside you through everything. And she's the one who avoids that the most, probably. But yeah, it's not easy to separate the difference, I think, for a 5-year-old. Like, what's consequence and punishment? Because they just miss their toys or whatever it is, they're that is the consequence. Yeah. So.
Being creative with the consequences too, like having it relate to the act or whatever, like if it, I don't know, I think creative consequences, and I think it gets harder as they get older. When they're younger, it's easy to do a quick, clear-cut consequence, but then when they're older, it gets more, you have to be like, okay, this has to make sense to the heart of it, and I think that's when it gets real tricky.
Yeah. And understanding sin, right? Like,
Yeah.
we all sin. We all always will sin.
Yeah, you're not going to be able to get better from it. Like,
Right.
not going to get rid of it.
Right. Thank you for sharing that. All right, well, Doris is going to make her way back up. That's all the time we have for Q&A. And I did want to summarize what I've heard from the panel from talking tonight is it's about being intentional with your spouse and with your relationship with the Lord and with learning each individual child you have, because they're all going to be different. What works with the first undoubtedly will not work at all with the second, and that's just the hands we're dealt. But it also keeps us on our knees, so I'm wondering if that's by design from the Lord as well in our order of children. And I also wanted to ask, and you guys can just give a head nod, but has community played a role in your parenting? Has it been easier to parent within community than in isolation and not having friends to do this with? I know that is the case for us, and you're all shaking your heads. It's a big, big deal. So we're grateful for tonight and for you guys inviting all of us into community. This is a way for it to happen. So thank you. All right, Doris.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. For those of you joining online, we'd ask that you would take the time to fill out the survey. You can find that in the description, and if you need some bribing for that, we are going to be picking a raffle winner from those people who fill out the survey. So I encourage you to do that, and thank you so much for being here. For those of you who are here in person, we're going to have some time now where you can just kind of discuss at your tables. You guys can join tables together and go through some questions, and we'll be up here for a little while and walk around too. So, but before that, I thought it'd be fun, because you guys have been sitting here for like a few minutes, to give away some prizes. So I have 2 baskets with some really fun things inside.